the Instagram queen herself.
Hi. How's it going?
I'm great. How are you today?
I'm very well, thank you.
Good to hear. So really excited for you to join us and get
Me
to
too.
talk all things brand and marketing and Carmen and everything that you kick ass at.
Thank you.
Just for people who are just kind of joining on right now, can you give everybody a little bit of just a brief bio, who you are, where you're at, what you do?
Sure. So I've been in the fitness industry now for about 5 or 6 years. Prior to that, I was a teacher for 5 years. I was a classroom teacher. I did PE, I did art, I did all of it, and transitioned out of that into fitness, first of all, part-time, and then I went into full-time and took the full-on leap and basically just went right into it,
Yeah. How scary was that for you? I mean, you know, a lot of our coaches too are people who didn't necessarily come from, I went to school for exercise science or physical therapy, and I'm a trainer. A lot of people end up in this career because it's a passion career.
Yes.
Right? How did you make that leap, and like, how did you battle like getting clients and getting taken seriously and finding your kind of your own niche?
It was very scary at first, for sure, because I came from a steady paycheck, and even though it wasn't a very good paycheck for a teacher, it was still steady income, and I was nervous about switching to something that is not, that requires a lot more of my personal strength to like acquire clients and do that. One of the things that I really kept in my mind was using my networks that I already had, my networks of teachers that I had worked with, of PE teachers, of fellow teachers that I worked with, of parents, parents of the students that I kept in contact with in any of the community organizations. And then honestly, my first step with it was to put out my business card at the apartments where I lived, next to the elevator where everybody else was putting out the doctors and the all this sort of community information. I put my business cards out there, and that's where my first 3 solid clients came from. And it was also really good that they lived in the building. And so it was very much like, there wasn't a lot involved in terms of, you just got to come downstairs to work out with me. So it wasn't too much like, nobody really missed their scheduled time. It was very convenient for me and for them.
Yeah. You know what I love about you is that, you attack this from a very logical standpoint. Like, oh, that makes sense. Like, I have an apartment gym. Like, why not put my business cards there? But, a lot of people have, some in-person clients, but you kind of took a different route when you started making your own little personal, your info products, your standalone programs. A lot of people, that's a game now that a lot of people are jumping into, to want to create a program that has residual income, especially passive revenue. You didn't do it with that goal in mind. Why did you start shooting those videos for your 3 different products that you had?
So I used my teacher background, and that was kind of the only way I knew how to approach anything. And so my idea was always to try and see what could I give people in a small time frame that would actually be beneficial to them. And I think that came from my teaching background of just wanting to put out something that had value, and that a woman at home could use, if she's like, the baby's down for a nap and I need a 10 or 15-minute workout. I wanted it to be useful things that you knew you could come to my page or come to my website or come to my product, and you would get something that was affordable and approachable and accessible. And that's always been what I try to stick with, is something very, very accessible for everybody.
Yeah. And something I love about you is, obviously a lot of you guys saw me post, Carmen coming on here, and you've developed a huge Instagram following, and it's all been organic, and it's all been very authentic, which is what I love about it, right? And you make it not only fun, but you provide great content, and it's inspiring to a lot of people. What would you say is one of the biggest strategies that you implemented to help your social not only grow, but to be really effective? And guys, before she gets into it, I want you guys to know, with a 650,000 person following, it's over 90% female, right? And that's huge, right? There's a lot of people that have big followings that don't necessarily line up with your clientele, right? You can be a really in shape, amazingly smart, beautiful human, and if you're targeting trying to get women to buy buy into your message around strength training and body positivity, but the majority of your Instagram is men, you're probably not going to sell very many products. And so in a day and age where, let's be honest, guys, Instagram is the booty central. And not that we don't all love it, right? And there's that element to it, but you still have to be authentic in who you're trying to reach. How have you been able to stay so true to who you are and building a great social following that works for your business now to this day?
I think being really honest with yourself for sure, and deciding which way you want to take it, because you can absolutely do whatever you want with your Instagram, and I definitely don't ever want to say that it's wrong for a woman or anybody to do whatever they want with their Instagram and show as much skin, don't show as much skin, whatever you personally want to do, but making sure that you are conscious of what that means for sure. That if I'm wanting, my main goal is always like, I really want to help people, and I really want to help women specifically with their fitness. And so I wanted to approach it from a very, very much a education standpoint of how can I help as many women as possible. And if you do decide to go the other route, you do have to know what that looks like, what that means, that you might be getting the views and you might be getting the likes and the followers, but that does not necessarily translate into credibility. It does not necessarily translate into be taken seriously in certain circles. And it doesn't even translate into sales if you have something to sell. You know what I mean? And so we all have to make a living. And so that was one of my things, is like very much how can I help as many women as possible, but also, of course, like how can I make it as a trainer and stay alive and keep doing it for a job, basically.
Yeah. Well, you touched on this point, and I would love for you to go into this, especially in this day and age now. How do you balance being taken seriously with an Instagram following, right? Because a lot of times someone will look at this, oh, she has a big following, and it's probably just like her doing whatever, as opposed to like, oh no, she has real things to say. Like, she's a very intelligent trainer. She puts out great content. It's very simple for everybody else to understand. How do you balance that out for you in driving the quality that you put out there at the same time, like still being you?
And it's definitely hard, it's definitely hard. I've definitely come into points of my career where I wasn't taken very seriously, where people did form opinions of me prior to meeting me or prior to speaking to me. And I think that's okay as long as you can back it up. So one of my favorite things is continued education and really being your own, like, you have to take responsibility for staying on the game and like keeping that education up and making sure that when you go in somewhere, even if you don't use the same lingo, because that's one of my things, is that in the fitness industry, right, we can get very technical and very specific, or you can break it down in different ways. And it just depends on who's your audience is and who you're trying to teach. And as a teacher, that was one of the things I always worked on, was breaking things down into a simpler format. And so now it's like, I want to break it down into digestible, because I don't really care about using the big vocabulary and trying to sound a certain way. But you will still get a little resistance. I still do get people that take one look at my Instagram or take one look at me and think I'm a certain way. And it's just making sure that you keep as much of that confidence that you can when you go into a room, and that's why I want that continued education, because I want to make sure that I know exactly what all of y'all are talking about. I just talk about it in a different way or use different words than you do. But I'm still able to do everything, and hang out with the big boys, basically.
Yeah.
Too.
Well, and I think that's such a big part is being able to deliver an experience for that way your audience, right? Your audience isn't trying to run the best 40-yard dash or jump the highest, right? They're trying to find easy ways for them to be successful. And I think a lot of times people look at your Instagram and they want the outcome that provides. They want, like, oh, I have a 500,000 person following. I have all these companies hitting me up to promote their stuff and get paid for it. But what you don't realize is some of the negativity that also comes with having that, or maybe the dilemma of putting yourself out there that often to criticism, right?
Oh yeah, absolutely.
You don't get a lot of it, but you still get some.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. And I gotta say, I'm very lucky that I really, honestly, I don't get like ever any trolls on my page. Like, I mean, I can probably count on like two hands the amount of trolls I've ever had, and it's usually related to something maybe I was eating or something very trivial, like that. So it's never. I've been very lucky in that sense, in terms of I don't get a lot of hate or a lot of any of that. And I think just being conscious of that, and not feeding into the Instagram thing too much. Like you're saying, like, sure, people are going to throw things at you and offer you things, but you also got to like keep in mind who you are and what do you really stand for, and does it really make sense to accept all these things or accept payment for this or that if it doesn't really relate to your main goal. And that's always been my thing. Like, I don't want anybody to come to my page and be like, whoa, what is this? And like, clearly you just did that because you were paid or whatever it might be. You know?
Totally. Now, you know, as you've starting to grow your business, you went from training people in your apartment gym to training people in your apartment to you had your online videos that you sold. And then now you have an app that you produce content for and deliver. You know, a lot of people would love the opportunity to have that. Can you, and don't go into the full story because it'll, you know, I know you don't have time for it, but give people a quick rundown about what it's like now having an app, you know, from a time management standpoint. Because I think everybody understands the idea of like, oh, I have a big enough following that I want an app. I think more people, it would be more valuable for people to hear about how much work it takes to manage the app on the back end. Like, it's a fuck ton of work for you. And guys, Carmen and I are pretty good friends, and so we spend a fair amount of time together, and it's something that she works really hard on. It's not like, okay, it's up and done. How does that work? How does that affect your day, even though it's something you don't train people daily for?
Oh yeah, it's intense for sure. And a lot of people do. The second you say, you know, I have an app, like, oh, whoa, sweet. And like, how'd you land that? And like, I want to get that. And I'm not saying that it's a bad idea, but it's just, it is a lot of work. Like, we're talking, I take every single photo, I take every single picture, I crop it down to the size that it needs to be to fit into the iPhone frame. Then I go into the back system and I upload every single photo. I upload every single video. And we're talking about things that, you know, that's not very fun. You're literally just clicking upload, waiting, clicking upload, positioning the photo, typing out the tip, the workout tip, typing out the exercise, typing out the reps, you know, doing every single thing of it. I don't have a team that does anything for me. You know what I mean? That's just all at the computer, staring all day long, doing those things. And it is an excellent way to reach another audience. You know what I mean? Like, don't get me wrong, I absolutely love it. But with that, it comes so many problems as well, because you just feel, I'm very much want everybody to have a really good experience in my app. And it gets very hard with technical difficulties. And, you know, sometimes you take that very personally, and it's like, oh my God, like the app crashing or something happening in there is just like, oh, it just is like, destroys your day when you hear about people not being able to log in or not being able to access the video inside the app. And that's a whole nother portion of it. You know, you can't control that either. There's no way to control that. Yeah.
Well, I mean, not only are you getting a couple hundred comments per post anyway, and DMs and stories, but now you add in the factor of the platform. Oh my gosh, like your DMs exhaust me.
Yes.
Like, I can't imagine how much time, because you take a lot of pride, and I love this about you. You take a lot of pride in responding back to every comment, every DM. Like, you're so personable. And I think that's honestly why your brand is as great as it is. Like, you probably would have done well just given how your strategy around content and how beautiful your page is, but it wouldn't work for you the same way if you didn't take the time to respond back to everybody, answer the questions, even if they're questions that you respond to 9 times in the same thread. So I think, guys, as you gotta start going through and maybe you want to build your business up to be this point that Carmen has, understand the game. It's not just about posting the picture. It's not just about getting the likes and views. It's engaging with your community so that way they know you.
Yeah, my number one thing is I always want to make sure people know that, like, if you ever see me or we're ever in the same room, like, please come say what's up to me. Like, I am not that cool. Okay? It's like, you do not need to think that, like, I would totally be your friend in real life. And, like, you know what I mean? Like, when people we always joke about that. I joke about that with my community a lot, where we're like, man, if we lived all together, like, we'd all be great friends. Like, this would be great. I'd have so many friends. So
your dream come true.
Yes. So I always just, you know, and being genuine and really wanting to care and take the time to answer people's questions, because they have legitimate questions. There's a lot of times where you go into the comments and there's legitimate questions that I'm like, that's an excellent question. Thank you for pointing that out. And it's something like that I do want to address about the video or about whatever I've posted. And it's a nice way. Oh, it's my cousin Amber.
Oh, they weren't calling me pretty? Oh, damn it. God, thanks. Appreciate the compliments. Now for you, this has all led you down a path that I don't think you ever saw your business going, from training people out of your apartment gym to, are you in Nashville right now?
Yes.
What are you doing in Nashville?
I'm consulting for a really cool gym out here called Booth Camp Gym. And I work with them for all kinds of things, with programming, with streamlining, a lot of different things. They have an excellent community out here, and it's one of my favorite aspects of my job, like my absolute favorite aspect.
So what does that mean? Like, you do it not only for Booth Camp, but you also do it for a Dance House Fitness in Houston, right?
I work with Dance House Fitness, yeah.
So what does that look like? Because a lot of people, like, okay, they hear consultant, that like they don't really know what that means, and maybe some people are wondering what that means, if that you could help them, or maybe they want to be at that level at some point as well. And give us a little background in terms of how you kind of found your way into this kind of space, because it happened so organically, and then a little bit about what you're helping these companies do.
So a lot of times I can be very specific with what anybody wants. You know what I mean? So for Dance House Fitness, it's a dance cardio based place. They do a lot of choreography, dance, and then they have a couple fitness classes. And so then that's where somebody like me comes in, whereas their strengths might be in dance and in that sort of programming. They're a little bit wanting a little bit extra help in the fitness side. And so that's something that I can provide and that we work together on, and I can give them feedback on and help them template out a class that has a good structure, that has a good vibe, and creates basically an overall really good experience for their members, for their gym members. And again, you can very much cater it to wherever you're working and whatever that sort of unique environment needs, wants, and what they want from you for that. And that's got to be my favorite part of it, is that I think I get to combine my creative side that I've gotten to do before in the teaching field, and my creative side in terms of curriculum and classroom control, and I get to bring all of that together into a fitness setting, which is so much fun for me. So much fun.
Let's talk about that, the classroom experience, because right now we're in a day and age of group fitness, and you have to balance between, like, people want to get their booties kicked and have a great sweaty workout, but they also want to have fun. Yes. And it also needs to hit, like, hey, it needs to be safe. It needs to be like they need to take care of it. It needs to be a good session, but it still needs to, like, have the components of a good normal training session, a warm up, a workout, a cool down. How do you install that into a group fitness class where you have 90 people coming and taking a class that you may never ever see again? They're just here taking that class that day.
Yes, and that's where I really enjoy that part of the job, because it's been different at every place I've worked, and and it's like, it's basically taking like, for example, mobility and all the things that go into mobility, and it's like, it can seem like it's very intense, and like, when you're at the On It Academy, we might warm up for 20 minutes or, what I mean? But that's not realistic in a class setting. And so it's taking things that and that you've learned and figuring out how to adjust them to each individual sort of feel. You know what I mean? Each gym's feel, which is something I really, really love doing. And I think it just provides so much value to the members. You know what I mean? Because I'm like, not to knock on these large, big box, like, chain gyms, like Orange Theory, like Barry's Boot Camp and all that, but it's like, the burnout that people experience at places like that is just so real, and the injury and everything like that. And it's like, if you can provide something much more valuable to your clientele, and that shows them that you care and you care about their body, but they're still sweating, they still got the killer playlist, they're still having fun, there's still a sense of community, like, that's such a beautiful thing to be able to create.
Yeah. Building that balance has got to be tough, because it's something where they don't always line up, and not everybody does it that way. You might have a great playlist and a kick-ass workout, but it was terribly ran, or it was paced poorly, or like, if you're getting ready to go do a bunch of, let's say, burpees, right? The last song you want coming on is Casey and JoJo, All My Life, and you're like, oh my gosh, right? You want whatever, Nine Inch Nails, Bodies Hitting the Floor, whatever that's called, right? So do you custom and you build out playlists and full, like, license, kind of like structured classes, or do you do it like individual facility by individual facility? How are you managing that?
I usually do it individual by individual, just because I do like I like the idea of a gym having its own personality. You know what I mean? And a lot of these boutique spaces do. They have really cool personalities. They have really cool names and like ways that they foster different things, you know? And so I like to do it as a very, very much creative base. But there are certain things that carry across the board. And one of the reasons I really like it is because of my teaching background, again, with like curriculum and classroom control, is mainly thinking about things in a structural management way, where, you know, you not only do you have to think about what exercise, what music, how difficult, and if I'm warmed up properly, you also have to think of what it looks like in that specific space. Like, am I having people move around too much? Am I having people pick up things and drop things too much? Am I having, like, what, you know what I mean? And thinking about the minute things that we don't necessarily think of as trainers. And so that's where I really love drawing on my education background, because as a teacher, you know, you might have 8 class periods, and first class period, hey, Diddy, and the first period of the day, right? You've planned your lesson, you've planned everything out during that first period, and you're like, okay, I'm solid, I'm good to go. You get to third period and they destroy you. You know what I mean? They show you that like your lesson plan does not work for third period, or whatever you planned out does not work. And that's where you make those little adjustments, you know, and you can make those little adjustments and keep learning, because I think it's important to realize that something that you planned out in your head, as much as you planned it out, as much as you wrote down that workout, it still may not work in certain class aspects. You just got to figure it out as you go along. You can't be afraid to make those little adjustments.
Now, are you asking for feedback like immediately after classes, or how do you know that you're on the right direction? Because you might feel it's been great, but how do you know that everybody else is enjoying it too?
So I definitely believe in surveys, taking surveys of your clientele, of your members. Also, I think you just need to learn to recognize the things that aren't working, right? And a lot of times your members will show you that. They'll show you it in their faces. They'll show you it in their performance. If I'm looking around the room and I see 50% not being able to perform an exercise the way it was demonstrated, that means I did something wrong, right? That's not on them, that's on me. Something didn't communicate right, and we need to adjust before the next class. And I think it's being conscious and looking around and making sure you're seeing that and reading people's faces and asking, you know, how'd that go there? You know what I mean? Like, you know, are you okay? You know, and it's like, yeah, exactly. Like somebody here is saying that totally why I can't take group classes. Some places do not think of the space. Exactly. Like small things like that. Are you watching somebody do a burpee over here and their feet are like really close to the kettlebells, or they're almost hitting the wall, or whatever it might be? You got to still think of those things. You know what I mean? You got to think of every little thing and really just get into the habit of walking around your space and looking and taking note of what's happening.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, going forward for you, you know, you've kind of ventured into this space around building out other people's brands around, and not only just the My Trainer Carmen brand, but, you know, Booth House Fitness, Dance House Fitness, and you're now in this space where you're kind of helping other coaches reach their level and hopefully reach a level that you're at someday. How do you balance out, you know, wanting to just make it yours and still keeping it their flavor? Like, how do you still make it Dance House or Booth House? It still feels them, but you got to come in and put your influence in.
I think that probably lends to, that might be personal preference. You know, I think sometimes if you were somebody that wanted to inject your brand more as you aligned yourself with other gyms, I think that's something that you could probably do. I'm not sure exactly what it would look like, you know what I mean? But I think it's possible to foster that, whether it's through like teaming up and doing pop-up classes and making sure you're still having your name, you know, presented, and like maybe you're a featured guest sometimes or whatever it might be. But I personally don't. I like the challenge of being just in the back and like just watching people like do their thing and foster their community and like really grow their strengths. That's one of my favorite things to see. And so I don't really want to inject my personal brand into it too much, other than whatever way that they personally want me to use for a mutual benefit, right? Like for Dance House Fitness, whether that's you know, posting or doing something like that, you know what I mean, or teaming up and saying it's a My Trainer Carmen times Dance House Fitness coordinated event, you know, we do things like that. That's absolutely fun. But again, if it's basically, I leave it up to them in terms of what they want to use me for and my specific brand and name for. In terms of, otherwise, I'm totally cool with just being like in the back.
Yeah, it's so funny, and you know, especially about you, like you enjoy the structure and the building on the back end. you happen to find yourself in the front of the room a fair amount, just given, you know, their following. But I love that you really love empowering other people, not just trying to push your own initiatives on these kind of going forward. Excuse me. You know, for a lot of people, you know, they dream of having a following like you, that you have. How do you know, I guess a better way to look at it is, do you feel that now as people approach you with different opportunities or they hit you up, that you kind of have to gauge people based on like, are they just trying to use me for my following, or like they generally interested in like collaborating and doing something valuable together? And how do you manage that?
It's for sure, you will for sure get a lot of that if you have a large audience. There will definitely be people that really just want to either have you post something about them or mention them or tag them or whatever it might be, which I've never had a problem with. I don't really mind. If I'm somewhere and somebody asks me to do a video with them, I'm like, sure, let's go. I don't have a problem. But you do want to be conscious, sure, and like make sure you're not doing too much, you know, for free if that's, you know, where you're trying to grow, for sure. Yeah, it's not.
Now, do you feel like it's just a trust your gut kind of thing, or have you had like moments where it's like, ooh, you've had crappy learning experiences that you've kind of had to like reshape the way you look at how you do business?
Oh yeah, I've for sure had events where I was brought to where I didn't really understand why I was there, and it wasn't really an event that would make any sense to me, you know, and it's like, and brands will do that and companies will do that where they bring me somewhere and I look around and I'm thinking, whoa, you didn't research anything about me, because this space is not my audience and this is not my gig and all that, and it's reasserting yourself, you know, and making sure you're not afraid to say no to those things. You know what I mean? Like where it's like, I know a couple events that I'll never ever go to again, basically. And I have no problem saying no, you know what I mean? Now that I've seen it and been there. Yeah.
I think that's an important lesson for people to learn too. Like, you're not saying no because you want to be a bitch or a dick or whatever analogy you want to use, but you're doing it because you have to protect your own time, because Carmen today is much busier than Carmen was 7 years ago.
Oh yeah.
Right. And you have way more things in the hopper. You got me calling you all the time. You got Booth House. You got Dan's House. You got your own brand. You know, so it's like so many different things that are asking for your time these days that you have to protect that so you can give the most to the people that you choose to be around.
Absolutely. And for sure, and knowing that, like, and I think it's okay to be confident in who you are, you know, and what you want to do with yourself, because you're going to stretch it too thin, or maybe you're going to go into too many different things then, and it you know, maybe you lose sight of kind of why you started and stuff. And so I definitely don't ever want to go to any sort of event where I feel like I'm not representing my real self, like, and who I am and what I care about, basically, you know, just because I can, you know, or whatever.
So for all the young coaches out there, as we wrap up, all the young coaches, or any coach, wherever they're at in their journey, look to hopefully achieve the success that you've achieved in your career. Do you have a piece of advice for people to kind of follow, or a mantra or something that you kind of live by that can help them in their journey?
Yeah, I think making sure you understand your why is a really good approach to it. You know, why are you doing what you're doing? And you can apply that question to so many things. Like, why am I training people this way? Why am I wanting to focus on these things? Why am I charging this much? Like, really making sure to take the time to ask yourself why, you know, and does it make sense for you and what you align to? And my thing that I always wanted, again, was to be affordable, accessible, and approachable. And so I stick by that as much as I possibly can. And I make sure that I've kept that with everything involving my brand. Like, I've fought companies so many times on like what I need to charge for workout events or what I need to charge for a PDF program, you know, and it's like, that's my thing. And the you know, I wanted to charge $35 an hour as a trainer. I don't recommend that to anybody, but that's what I did. And, you know, I think sticking true to what you really believe in, you know what I mean? And identifying a couple aspects, and then making sure when you ask yourself, well, okay, wait, well, but why am I doing this over here? And does that still align with the reason why I started, basically?
And by companies that fight her, she means me. I mean, so, going forward for you, any future plans, any fun and exciting things coming up that you can share with us, or anything that you want to share that you got going on in your world?
I'm honestly working with Booth Camp right now. It's like my jam. This is my thing right now. I love it here. The community's fantastic. It's been super dope, and we're doing a lot of events and things like that. And it's that's like what I'm most excited about. And watching this place just like blow up is gonna be, that's my ultimate thing right now. It's like
Cool.
Yeah, and I like sticking with you know what I mean, being able to work with them where they are now, and not taking on too much else right now, because I want to make sure I'm able to, you know, give my all here and really watch it and see what goes down, because I think it's going to be like, I think it's really cool, and it's really revolutionary in a boutique fitness space, and I'm excited to be a part of it. So that's my jam right now.
Awesome. So if you're in Nashville,
yes,
hit up Carmen, hit up Sean,
yes,
and come check out a class.
Yes, please do, y'all, please do.
So thank you so much for joining us. We appreciate you. I'm blessed to be able to have some of your time.
Thank you.
If there's anything I can do for you, let me know. But guys, go follow Carmen, go follow her journey, go check out Booth House Fitness and Booth Camp. I'm so sorry. She tells me this 9 million times, and I fuck it up every single time because clearly I pay attention. Jesus. But anyway, thank you so much for jumping on with us and sharing your wisdom and all the amazing things that you do. And looking forward to seeing you super soon.
Yes, thank you. Thanks.
Bye, guys.
See ya. Bye.